Hi, and welcome to tutorial 8 and 9 of my ongoing IRIS Pro Training Series Pilatus PC9A tutorial set. In this tutorial we're going to cover IFR navigation and IFR approaches. IFR, or Instrument Flight Rules, is a method of navigating using nav aids in the form of radio beacons on the ground. There are three types of beacons that we are interested in. The non-directional beacon, which is a very basic beacon that sends out a radio signal that you can act as a directional finder on. It's the original type of technology that was used for instrument flight rules. It's been around since World War II, if not before. VOR and DME, or VOR/DME. A VOR nav radio beacon acts by not only giving you a bearing to it, but also telling you what radial you're actually travelling on from the aid. This means you can get very precise measurements. When it's coupled with DME, or distance measuring equipment, you can also get your range from the aid, which makes it extremely important for precision in navigation. The third type of aid is a TACAN, or Tactical Navigation Aid, which is used by the military. For our purposes, a TACAN and a VOR are basically exactly the same. They serve the same purpose and such. The other navigation aid that we'll be looking at is, of course, the ILS, or Instrument Landing System. The ILS works by projecting a glide slope path and a locator path. So basically you can fly down a guideway all the way down to the runway. The PC9 is capable of handling both. Of course, one of the big things with IFR navigation is that you need to know the nav aids and you need charts. So we're going to cover both of these right now. If you use something like SkyVector to plan out your navigation, as I mentioned in the planning series, you can get the actual nav aids that you're going to need. So in this case, we've got the nav aid right here for Rottnest Island, which is an NDB, we can tell that by the little symbol, on 317.000. Perth, which is a VOR with a DME, we can tell that because of the box around the little hexagon there, is on 113.70. Pierce is actually a VORTAC and is operating on 112.80, or the military frequency of 17 X-ray. So we will double check that TACAN frequency, because I am actually wrong. It's running on channel 75 X-ray. So we're going to actually quickly adjust that here in our radio. Now, as I said, we're also going to be covering approaches. You've got a couple of ways of getting the charts you need for approaches. You can pay for a Navigraph chart subscription, or just the charts, and get your charts this way, such as Perth's here. You can also, however, go to airservicesaustralia.com Across to the publications area, then the Aeronautical Information Package, or AIP. In here, once you go through and accept all of its various agreements, you'll find the various parts of the Australian Aeronautical Information Package. One of these is Precision Approach Terrain Charts. The other one is Departure and Approach Procedures. It's not yet the 5th of March, so we're going to use the 13th of November's. When we click on it, we'll get this, and you'll notice we've got Aerodrome and Procedure Charts. If we click on that, we get this list, which gives us every chart for Australia. One chart that's not included in the Navigraph set is Rottnest Islands. So we're actually going to look at it here because we're going to be flying the NDB approach on runway 09. So we're going to have that chart ready to go. The other one we're going to be flying is a VOR approach on runway 03, I believe. Let's take a look. Nope, that's not the one we want. That's the one we want. So we're going to fly a VOR approach on runway 21. And we're going to fly the ILS Zulu on runway 18 left at Pierce. So we'll have these three charts loaded and ready to go for us. Before we get too far into this set of tutorials, we're going to have a quick look at how these charts are set out. We'll look at the first one that we're going to actually hit, which is Rottnest Island, just here. First off, across the top we're being told all the pertinent information we need for the chart. So it's an NDB on runway 09, it's for Rottnest Island, Western Australia, and the ICAO code, the date it was issued, the FIA radio frequency, the local CTAF frequency, and then we get an over-the-top down view of the area, including the actual approach itself, a section that shows us how to enter a hold and which directions to approach from, as well as the minimum altitude that we're allowed to go on. Because this is an NDB, it also gives us a time rather than a DME limit, and the direction of the turns. A look at where the NDB is in relation to the actual airfield. Information for our minimum safe altitudes within 25 nautical miles of the Rottnest Island NDB. As you can see here, we're coming in from generally the north or from the west or even the south. We can descend to 1800. However, if we're coming in directly from Perth, we've basically got to stay at least above 2,900. At least until we get to the 8. Finally, this section is showing us the actual approach from the side view. So this is only available for Cat A and B. There's no C or D. It gives us, it tells us that we've got to come in at an altitude of 2,000 feet, fly out on 252 for 2.5 minutes, descending down but not below 1,400 feet, before turning in on 087 for another 2.5 minutes roughly, while descending down towards our minimum approach altitude, which is 740 feet. At which point, if we can't see the runway, we do a missed approach, which involves us levelling off, flying over the aid and then turning on 175. It also tells us our maximum indicated airspeed, so we cannot fly any faster than 140 knots while doing this, and warns us that if the restricted airspaces are active, we can't fly this chart, this approach. These areas are generally the same on every chart. You can have a look at Perth's VOR approach and we'll see we've got the same information, just slightly different. In this case we're giving radial information because it's a VOR DME approach. We'll look at this in a minute, once we get out there. For the moment, we're going to get up and head out towards Rottnest Island. So, if we look here, we know that we're leaving Pierce and we need to fly on a heading of 231 for 31 nautical miles. What we can do here is use our actual TACAN at Pierce to make certain that we're going in the correct direction. So if we take another look at that, 231 degrees. So we want to dial in our course needle here to 231 degrees. This will give us an idea on how well we're keeping to our course. The other thing I've done here is I've brought up the single pointer selection button, which gives us a direction to our tuned nav or TACAN, and our purple ADF, which once we get in range of Rottnest Island will point towards Rottnest Island's navigational aid. I'm going to bring my my heading bug around to the course that I want to be on. I'm also going to flick my RMI over. It's not going to flick until I actually unpause the sim. Finally, we're going to increase my radio to 2200. This tells me that I'm an IFR based aircraft. Now, because we're running under instrument flight rules, when we leave Pierce, we've got to remain in and around the airfield until we're above the minimum safe levels, which for us is actually flight level 2100. We could actually fly what's known as a standard instrument departure. How we do this is on certain charts you'll see you've got things called SID with a name. I've got the actual chart for Pierce's SID under radar control, which if we're departing on runway 18 left and we're heading out towards where we want to go, we could do a Whiskey 3 departure. What it tells me to do is to join onto radial 260, be above 6,000 feet, but not before one TACAN, turn right to a track of 300 to join the 260 Pierce TACAN radial, then track along it until 10 on the TACAN before proceeding as cleared. So we're going to actually fly that part to begin with. So let's adjust our radios again here, just slightly. 260, and our initial course turn will be around to 300. Alright, let's unpause the sim here and get airborne. Now you'll notice it's pretty cloudy. That's the reason we're flying under instrument flight rules. You'll notice that our instruments are all changing to reflect the change in the aid. So we've got to climb to at least 600 feet. We can't turn until one tack. What's it mean by one tack? Well, if we pause for a moment here and zoom in on our radio panel, you'll notice that we've got a number here, which is 1.1 nautical miles. That's telling us the distance from a TACAN because we're tuned in to a TACAN. So we're above the altitude and we're past the distance, so we can start our turn around to 300. So now we're flying course 300. We want to continue on this course until we join the radial of 260. What will happen here is our course line will slowly begin to come in and join, and as this deviation needle matches up with the centre, we turn onto our course. We know that we're actually flying on this course number. So we've got the deflection. Now we're going to bring the aircraft around to join on. So now we're flying on a course of 260 from the Piers TACAN. At the same time we're going to bring our heading bug around so that we know it's where we want to be. Now you'll notice that the purple needle is actually pointing towards it. Now. It's because we're high enough to actually receive the NDB signal from Rottnest Island. Once we hit 10 TAC, we're going to turn and point towards it. reason we've climbed to 3,200 is because the minimum safe altitude for us at the moment is 2,700. So we've hit 10 TAC. We're now cleared to go as cleared by ATC. In this case, ATC's told us to go direct to Rottnest Island. So we're going to dial our beacon in and around for Rottnest Island. We don't even need to use the TACAN because we actually have the aid. The other thing to be aware of though when you're under IFR is not to breach the altitudes that you've been assigned. So in this case we're going to say that I've been assigned to 3,000 feet. It's important when you are flying IFR, one, to make certain that your Q and H is set, but also that you monitor your instruments